In the name of the Emperor, finish this! Higher ground, we'll gain the advantage! Continue the assault! Reinforcements are coming! The monolith! We destroy that and this is over! Charge!
Hey everybody, it's the Last Robo-Kai here. It's time for Dark Crusade, everybody. That's right, the second expansion to Dawn of War by Relic. And it changes things up quite dramatically in terms of what you expect from an expansion. Particularly in that, unlike a lot of expansions released for RTS games, or games in general, it added 2 whole new factions. Usually you would get like one or a variation of one or something like that, but Dawn of War Dark Crusade actually implemented 2 whole completely different playing unique factions to the game, the Necrons and the Tau Empire. And on top of that, it also has quite a significant, quite a large campaign to it that's really quite interesting to talk about in terms of its mechanics. It's not linear, it's not narrative driven, it's more akin to something like a smaller scale Total War where you've got a map and you're trying to paint the map in your colors while removing your opponents from the game as well. And there's a chance that they may remove one another from the field. They might remove you if you're like extremely bad at the game. It's interesting, and it's quite a different departure, and we have our own strong feelings about that. And by we, I mean, of course, Cool Guy, who has joined us today.
Ahoy, ahoy.
And the race, I did a poll a year ago, and I asked everyone, hey, you know, what do you want me to play as? And I gave a list of all 7 factions. I was happy to play Space Marines again if everyone voted for it, because everybody gets something new. We don't just have new races as well. Everyone got new units and stuff as well, and mechanic tweaks and balancing and everything like that. So it was almost like a whole new game. In fact, I'm pretty sure you could actually just buy Dark Crusade by itself and only get to play as the Necrons and Tau, unless I'm remembering incorrectly.
No, you're correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah, so it was essentially its own game. Kind of like in the way that, like, you know, like Total War Warhammer games can kind of be their own game, or you can smush them together. So, we got the Necrons, which is good, but also gotta be a bit slow, and we will detail why that is, because we're about to get into the campaign, and when we actually get past the race selection screen and the introduction cinematics that are going to be coming, we're both going to probably be fairly quiet for a little bit, because this game actually has a fully voiced explanation of exactly how the mechanics for everything in the campaign work. So for that reason, after the character select bit, actually I will talk a little bit during there, but I feel like I should get it out now as a warning. There's just going to be a lot of somebody telling us how everything works. So we might as well just get stuck straight in right now.
The planet Kronus. Beset on all sides by the tides of war, this once quiet colony became a savage battlefield. 7 armies clashed on this one world, each refusing to back down. Each convinced it was in the right. From beneath the sands of Kronus' central desert came the Necrons, ancient machines bent on eradicating all life. But another evil already had its eyes on the planet. From the depths of the warp, the demonic forces of chaos arrived to enforce their claim. To oppose these fearsome powers, the planet's rulers in the Tau Empire sent their elite soldiers and sophisticated battlesuits into the fray. From the mighty Imperium of Man came the Imperial Guard, there to secure Kronus for the glory of the God Emperor. Like a green tide, the Orc Horde descended on Kronus, caring little for others' claims and sowing destruction in its wake. The Eldar, ancient enemies of the Necrons, emerged from their webway to pursue their own agenda on Kronus. And last came the Space Marines, finest and most uncompromising of the Imperium soldiers. Seeing a world beset by aliens and heretics, they undertook a great purge. A dark crusade had begun. It could only end with the total victory of one of these factions, and the total defeat of all others.
There we go, and now we've got our character select screen. You will probably recognize the names of pretty much all of these characters in some way. Some you may recognize from the previous two, Dawn of War and Winter Assault.
Gee!
And some you will recognize from Dawn of War 2. Because we have Eliphas.
There's Taldir, and there was also Eliphas.
Lucas Alexander does not survive this game.
So, that is one of the biggest tragedies in the history of this series, because he's amazing.
And Gorguts is back.
Gorguts!
He couldn't stay away, and this game was the debut of the Dawn of War character of Captain Davian Thule.
Who
appears in Dawn of War 2. And the other character who doesn't reappear again, mostly because none of the other Dawn of War games actually have the Tau in them, Chasseux Kais.
Pretty sure he canonically survives, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about him, which we'll probably get into when like, you know, in like 200 episodes when we do the show off the Tau and we do the Necron Stronghold, because yes, we are playing as the Necron Lord of Kronus.
Graves of your victims wait to be filled. Yeah, alright, whatever. Like, the new Kron stuff hadn't even come out yet. It's already channeling that in this game. We'll get into that.
The Necrons had lain buried in the sands of Kronus for eons, having retreated there at the end of a great war only hinted at in the histories of ancient races like the Eldar. Long before man even stood upright, the Necrons and the Dark Gods had retreated to their tomb worlds. But their slumber was not eternal. Eventually their genocidal deities awoke them again, driving them to purge the life that had spread across the galaxy during their sleep. On Kronus, this awakening came when an archaeological team opened a mysterious crypt on the arid Thor Abyss Plateau. Most of the team died, but expedition leader Thomas Maccabee somehow became one of the mysterious Necron pariahs. Seemingly retaining a hint of his personality, he occasionally spoke for the Silent Army as it advanced. The Necron Lord of Kronus, the most ancient and powerful of the deathless creatures on the planet, promptly launched a campaign of extermination. His loathsome god, the Nightbringer, hungered for the deaths of all those on Kronus.
Welcome to the single-player campaign for Dawn of War, Dark Crusade. These tutorial windows will guide you through the first 2 turns of play and introduce key features of this all-new campaign mode. Your goal is to conquer the planet Kronus. This world's inhabited continent is divided into 25 different provinces. Your conquest of the planet will happen one province at a time. The campaign map is your major interface for directing your troops' strategic moves. Individual battles are fought on the smaller-scaled battle map. This province is your stronghold, or home province. It is from here that you are launching your conquest of Kronus. If your stronghold is ever conquered, you will be pushed from Kronus and lose the campaign. Since this is the first turn, this is the only province you currently control. The enemy factions each have their own strongholds identified by banners on the campaign map. To win the campaign and make Kronus yours, you must conquer all 6 of these heavily defended provinces. The figure of your commander indicates the current position of your main army. You can only attack a province that borders the province where your army is, so its position on the map defines your options. The enemy factions each have armies of their own, and also can only attack adjacent provinces. One of your enemies, however, controls a spaceport in the Pavonis province. He can attack all over the map.
In that case, it's the Tau. It's the one with the big glowing beam there.
These arrows show you where your army can move or attack this turn. Red arrows indicate attacks into enemy provinces. Green arrows indicate moves into friendly provinces. Since this is your first turn and you only control your stronghold, you must attack an enemy province. To move to or attack a province, left-click to select that province, and then click on the Attack or Move button in the right panel. We should begin by attacking an enemy province. Select the province you want to attack and click the Attack button. Left-clicking on a province always brings up these arrows, unless you have no more moves left this turn.
So, the region we're in, the Thurbeast Plateau, gives us plus 100 global requisition for the global map. That you can see we've got 400 up in there. That'll come into play later. Also, every single location has one of these archive lore snippets, and so I believe I remember to look at all of them. So, and I've left them up long enough for everyone to have a read. And I'll look at them every time I sort of just go to take a look at, like, you know, go to attack. I'll probably take a look at the area before or after I've been there. And in this particular case, we get Thomas Maccabee post pariahification, having a bit of a having a bit of a talk to the tower, and them saying, "No, we're not down for this. Please go." The maternal teat.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Death is but the ending of life. Yeah, whatever, man. Just relax.
And then we've got the Moria Coast, which is where we're going to be attacking first. It is the most vulnerable. It only has a strength of 1. Everywhere else around us had a strength of 3. I'll explain what that means a little bit later. There is a lot to go through, but we've got you know, the Tau talking about how they plan to handle the feral orcs in this particular region. That they did eventually drive back towards the western part where the jungle is, which is where Gorguts is starting out. So you can imagine how that went.
Actually, eliminating these barbarians, however, will require more firepower than my cadre has at its disposal. Yeah, you always gotta look at the bottom line with Tau like that.
This screen provides you with a snapshot of your progress in conquering the planet Kronus. It includes a running tally of your conquests, your commander statistics, your honor guard, and more. If you haven't yet trained an honor guard unit, or you've lost one in battle, you can train it on this screen by simply clicking on its icon. You can also access the War Gear screen from here. As you conquer more and more provinces, you'll be awarded pieces of special equipment for your commander. This equipment is called War Gear. You will never be awarded a specific piece of war gear. Instead, for each award, you get to choose one piece from the list on this screen. Note that you may have to get some pieces of war gear to unlock other, more powerful versions.
And yeah, so as we go through, we'll have to perform different functions like destroying strongholds, performing successful defensive missions, conquering locations and stuff. It's like achievements, but every time you make an achievement, you actually get something tangible for it.
This screen shows you the forces you are leading into an attack and allows you to return to the campaign map if you decide you want to attack later. Since this is your first attack, most options aren't yet available. When you're ready to attack, just click on the Attack button. This will take you to the battle map, where you will face enemies in a game of Dawn of War.
The basis for this always kind of reminded me of like effectively where they ended up with the Last Stand mode in Dawn of War 2. Like it kind of feels like a lot of those ideas started here.
Yeah. All right. Strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to talk about how the Necrons actually function as a faction, because they function a little bit different. You'll all notice up in the top left corner, where requisition usually is a blue number that has plus blue number and starts going up. We have 1%. Necrons do not use requisition. They still need to capture requisition points and put listening posts on top of them, but they do not actually have requisition. All of their expenditure comes from power generation, which means that the way power buildings are limited and how they work for the Necrons is also a little bit different. So the idea behind the Necrons is that they are already on the planet, underground, and the job of the builder drones is to bring everything up to the surface and activate it. It's there ready to go. So the idea behind the listening post for every other faction is essentially you're getting more intel on the area. You're able to get a better idea of what's going on. You've also been able to prove to your commander up in space that you're more capable of being able to like expand out, and therefore they go, okay, here's more intel based stuff. It's gonna be easy for you to get what you need. We're not going to drip feed you like little bits of units because we aren't sure what's going on. With the Necrons, it's a similar sort of concept, except that as you can see, once the listening post went up just then, we just hit 20% as the thing. And what that actually is the speed at which building happens. So the building of structures, the production of research, and the building of units is sped up. And it goes up to 100%. You can't go over, but having redundancies of listening posts means that your general production isn't going to go down. And this is important because this goes to the core of how power works in the Necron forces, or rather how you build it. One very chief thing to note, if you looked at when we were sort of mousing over and clicking things and building things, I probably didn't do it for that long. The first Necron Warrior squad that you build and the first power generator that you build are free. After that, the cost starts to actually exist and starts to increase. In addition to that, the building time also increases. Now, this is only for those two particular units, that unit and that building, but they are the linchpins of both your military and your economy. So it is very important that you have the ability to make sure those things can go quickly, because you need Necron Warriors. Necron Warriors are your backbone.
Yeah, there were a lot of builds when this game came out, like basically experimenting with Necrons to see if you could get around that and make them very dense by just building more or less a bunch of power and eschewing Necron Warriors. Like, spoiler alert, you can't get around Necron Warriors. It doesn't matter what your enemy is, what your strategy is, what your build order is, you need Necron Warriors, period.
So now I'm going to start talking about, like, we've got that out of the way, so now I'm going to start talking about the units. So we'll start with the builder Scarabs, our little units there. They are probably the linchpin of your forces, and that is for three very important reasons. The first one, obviously, is they are your builder. You need builders to build things. The second is they are the only Necron units that can capture listening posts. So you need them there, out in the field, risking themselves to capture them. It certainly helps that they are, I think, free. And the last thing is that they're also a detection unit. They can detect invisible, like, infiltrated enemies, because in Dawn of War Dark Crusade, infiltration, once researched on a unit, is permanent. There is no toggle. They are just flat out invisible unless there's a detector unit around, or they're doing something like trying to capture a point. Then they are revealed. But aside from that, if there's nothing that detects around, they will stay invisible. You even shooting. So you could be harassed by. Yeah,
I was gonna say, you want to know what
units.
doesn't count as like a action that you can take that reveals you? Shooting a motherfucker.
Yes. So it is very important to have a builder drone around, and that's why, in part, they're a little bit more resilient than most other of the builder units, but also they can be reinforced. Again, I think for free. So they can be on stacks of 3, which means their survivability is actually pretty good amongst the builder units. I would probably say they're probably one of the hardiest builder units in the game. They can't fight, however, so like unlike the Imperial Guard tech priests.
Yeah, the engine seers are actually a non-trivial threat on the battlefield if you've got 3 or 4 of them together.
Yes.
Builder Scarabs, like you can see down in there when Robokai has them selected.
NA.
Their ranged and melee damage are both NA.
Yeah.
Just And hey,
And you'll sort of start to see I've like started pumping out quite a few drones that are just working on building stuff up. They are basically going to start taking longer and longer and excruciatingly longer to build more of those generators. Even with like 2 units working at building it together, it won't happen. I'll just pause on the chat. Summoning core building. All your monolith building that has not yet fully awakened, but that is still our command building, will be where all of your units are produced. Every other unit will have will unlock units and have like a bit of research attached to them usually, but otherwise it's not important. Then we've got the Necron Warriors. We talked about them being the linchpin of your units. That's because they are absolutely fantastic. They are extremely durable. They are extremely powerful ranged units. They will basically outfight every other ranged unit in the game at that level of the game, and you will get upgrades over time that will just make them stronger and hit harder. So they are able to basically fight from the start of the game to the end of the game. And on top of that, they have a passive mechanic where sometimes when a unit of them, like a single model in the army, is destroyed, it will, after a moment, just get back up again, because that's a thing Necrons do. We will talk about the lore of the Necrons in another episode, because right now it's just, there's a lot of mechanics chat to get through. So their biggest weakness is that they're incredibly slow. And you might go, oh, okay, so you wait till they commit their forces and then you send troops elsewhere to deal with them. The thing is that the Necron Warriors get a singular teleport that they can use to teleport back to base, or rather, to teleport to a building a building that you own as Necrons. We'll get into more of what that revelation might mean later on. Then we've got the Necron Lord. The Necron Lord is the only commander unit you get. He's very durable. He's alright at range and alright at melee. His major thing is that we're going to build a sarcophagus, and that's going to let us over, as we upgrade more and more, get more options, and here it is now, that will allow us to power up the Necron Lord in different ways with unique abilities that all are really kind of interesting. And while some are quite clearly better than others, you've got abilities for the early game, the mid game, and the late game that are really quite handy. There's still so much to get through.
He really hasn't even scratched the surface.
Yeah, we've got the building Scarabs, we've got the Necron Warriors out of the way. You'll notice I haven't actually upgraded the Necron Warrior, added more troops to the Necron Warrior units. You see, because that's a trap they get you with. If you reinforce that unit early game with the Necrons, you're gonna blow up a lot of your power. See, when we first built it, we've got 4 abilities we can choose from, and other buildings that we produce, or upgrading the monolith, I think, actually, which is part and parcel of the same thing. A certain number of buildings need to be built before you can upgrade the monolith anyway. Will then unlock more of those things. So the little guys covered in flesh, they're the flayed ones. They are a very broken early game melee unit. They have exactly the same ability as the Necrons in terms of they get knocked down, they get up again. They also have a passive morale debuff, which just drains the enemy morale like they were being hit with a flamethrower the entire time. Which means against forces like the Imperial Guard, Flayed 1 spam is incredibly effective. Some people would cry cheap. I would not disagree with them, but it's there. It's a thing that happens. And they deep strike. And as they are deploying via deep strike, they are already starting to destroy the morale of the enemy. So that's the flayed ones in a nutshell
Flayed
as
ones
well.
are ridiculous. Holy crap! No, if you're paying close attention, you may have basically noticed, that sounds a little bit like the Howling Banshees, and you would not be wrong. The Howling Banshees have a very similar niche. There are a couple of big differences. Number one, the big differences is flayed ones can actually take a punch, like in most of their incarnations. Obviously, this game had a lot of patches, and particularly in the multiplayer version, this is the part of the game where the Dawn of Eldar memes really started to come out. So, I saw the text box come up and got really confused for a moment. So, but in most of the situations, the flayed ones can take a serious punch, and they're deep striking in, and they're already beating the crap out of your morale when they spawn. It's just they're really nasty.
Yeah. So I've also built a Wraith here. The Wraith is altogether not an entirely very effective unit. It's only a single model, so it's very easy to lose them very quickly. Their major bonus function is they have that phase shift ability, which means they can travel. They're immune to attack, but they cannot attack themselves. A lot of games will have these abilities on different characters. Also, yes, the building of an item for your Lord, for your Necron Lord, is instantaneous. Like there's no like research timer for it. You click that button, you spend that power, it's yours. And so now we have, I think that was the, I can't actually remember what I purchased then. I'm not sure, is it the Resurrection Orb was the first thing I got? I can't remember. But it'll happen so very, very quickly. The Wraith is very fast, flies around, and can be made invulnerable. So it makes it a decent backline attacker, but a really, really good scout. You can buff them up as well, but, you know, like, they're not that fantastic. The AI can be sort of, like, gamed a little here, because they will always try and, like send troops out to try and, like, build and defend listing posts as they're constructed. Like, the AI will always still be trying to basically capture everything on the map, but if you're harassing them like I am, they will also send a not insignificant portion of their units out to try and mess with you. We've also got the Immortals. We've built the Immortals. I'm trying to catch up with me playing the game. And the Immortals are your anti-light vehicle infantry. As you can see, they were just one squad of 5 of them, absolutely shredding the Defiler, who is of course famous for being fairly light on armor. And so you've got, you know, they're quite really good in like 1, 2, or 3, just to melt everything off of the face of the enemy's armor. They're not so great against infantry, but they are still incredibly durable. Now I'm building the Tomb Spiders. The Tomb Spiders,
oh, no.
you can only build 3 of them. There's a limit of 3 of them, and the reason for that is because when the game starts, there are 3. Like you will always have the corpses of 3 deactivated Tomb Spiders just sitting around your base. So yeah, that was the phylactery. So the way the phylactery works is that your Necron Lord is covered in tiny little scarabs that increases his HP regeneration and also reduces range damage you take, which makes it much more of a good frontline distractor, your Necron Lord. That's why I always like to take that one, for just that reason. It's very effective. So the Tomb Spiders have really sort of a weird bunch of functions on top of that. If they get destroyed, their corpse lands where it is, so it can be a little hard to recover if, say, it dies under the foot of like a large amount of anti-armor, and then just kind of, you know, your dudes just kind of get sat on. And that could actually be like a little bit of a problem. They're also not like the most effective unit in a straight up fight. Their functional uses beyond that are kind of interesting. They can expand some of their own health to create little swarms of Scarabs, which are one of the original, there's the Resurrection Orb. One of the OG Necron units, these little flying metal swarms of beetles that will strip the flesh off of your bones. And they can also gather up the actual destroyed corpses of your Necron infantry. So corpse persistence actually serves a purpose in Dark Crusade, not just for the Necrons, but also for the Tau. So your own corpses primarily. Any Necron unit that gets sort of gathered up inside of it fills a meter. And after you fill up the meter enough, you can build a Necron Warrior unit or in the field, or you can build a Flayer squad, or you can build a squad of Immortals in the field. And here I am showing off the deep striking functionality of the flayed ones, just to bring them over. So they'll eventually get into some fights where they'll just eviscerate everyone's stuff. And here's the Tomb Spider. Can be upgraded to have a ranged weapon as well.
In the case where you upgrade it to have a ranged weapon, it's a pain in the ass because it's pretty durable.
Yeah.
You might have seen that it has 5,400 hit points. It's also vehicle class armor, so it can soak up a frightening amount of infantry fire. But if it's up in your face, shooting its weapon, blasting your dudes, it might be one of the only options you have.
Yeah. And now I had to pull up a list because I can't remember half the things that you can get as bonuses for your Necron Lord, but I'm going to read them out now. There's the Solar Pulse. So when you use that, it reveals infiltrated units, and all enemy units get a massive debuff to their accuracy, which means that basically heavy ranged like vehicles and stuff can't really deal with it. Just basically if your enemy can't hit you, you're already extremely difficult to kill units are just like screaming through. The phylactery, as I talked about, is like a little bunch of little tiny nanomachine type sized scarabs flying around in like a little mist. They don't look like nanomachine size to me, but whatever. They're like just basically just flying around, like healing up and like taking fire. The lightning field is a buff to melee combat. Everyone who's in melee combat with the Necron Lord takes like little bits of flicker damage as the lightning field goes off, and as he takes damage, the Necron Lord slowly builds up a meter that you can release in a large explosion of lightning energy. Then you've got the phase shifter, which is basically the Necron Lord gets the wraith effect of being able to phase shift him out, and also like it affects any units nearby, but they also can't attack either, so it's kind of dubious use. There's the Chronometron, which is a pretty powerful one. That does is that alters the flow of time around the Necron and his allies. And what that essentially does is it slows down enemy units, so they're like moving like they're in molasses while all of your dudes are actually moving around perfectly fine. And then there's the Nightmare Shroud. The Nightmare Shroud is a thing that lets you target non-vehicle units and makes them flee. It just makes them run in the other direction. Then there is the Resurrection Orb, which is the last one we'll talk about. And that basically just makes all fallen Necron units in an area around the Necron Lord when he activates it just get back up again. They form into squads and things like that. Completely breaks all concept of the of your unit caps.
No, I'm not mad about that.
It's pretty powerful. So yeah, here you see the attack scarabs. They're not very durable, but there's a lot of them, and they can really just peel apart everything that they attack if they don't get focused on. We just built pariahs. Pariahs are fairly distinct from the rest of the Necrons in terms of infantry, primarily because they're technically not Necrons. They're humans who have been basically stuffed inside of exoskeleton suits and brainwashed into being Necrons. So we'll talk about the pariah gene and everything like that, and where it fell in the lore. Pariahs aren't actually something you see often, if at all, involved with the Necrons anymore. I'm pretty sure they're not fieldable units anymore, unless that's changed in like the last few years.
No, I don't think that has.
They basically just got written out. But in Dark Crusade, they have these melee attacks. As you can see, the attack scarabs died very quickly to artillery fire from the Defiler that's sitting up there.
That's their point, to die so other things don't have to.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of using them solely because like it takes out health from the Tomb Spider that they have to sort of stop and repair. It feels like it breaks up my momentum. Pariahs have an interesting function in melee. As you can see, I've taken the Nightmare Shroud because I'm a fucker. Sorry, not the Nightmare Shroud. The cloak, the Shroud, the Veil of Darkness. So the trick with the Pariahs is that their melee attack. This is going to get pretty funny though. I'm going to actually surround that Chaos Lord.
God.
They have these weapons, these melee weapons. They're melee only. And every single attack shaves off a little bit of the max hit points of a target they attack. And so long as that pariah unit is alive, that effect is permanent. It's funny, not altogether too useful, although if your enemy manages to withdraw after they've hit them a few times, it does mean that like your unit that you've sent back and gotten repaired still isn't at full strength and is significantly weakened. So it is, I guess, effective in that regard. And to avoid having to like move it all the way across the map, I'm just going to build a monolith here.
Yeah, God.
I was going to say, well, I'm about to, like, you might want to get this in because I'm about to start talking about destroyers.
All right. Well, yeah. Like the big thing that the pariah is useful in that way is keeping people with powerful commanders or super heavy what are they called, vehicles from plaguing you forever. right? And usually it's for the commanders because by the time super heavy vehicles are out, either you're ready to deal with them or you're not. Pariahs are still basically a tier 2 thing, not top tier. And if you're trying to punch up like that, you're largely just losing with Dawn of War. But for something like somebody with a very powerful commander like the Space Marine Force Commander, the Space Marine Force Commander is incredibly powerful in this particular game. And a pariah that beats the crap out of him, the Space Marine can do exactly what they always do. It's just like, okay, cool. Like I went in, I caused a lot of havoc with my big old Thunderhammer. Now I'm walking away, gonna go talk to an apothecary and get suited back up. Oh wait.
Yeah,
oh wait.
A little bit weak.
That doesn't work.
Yeah. So, getting onto the destroyers, aside from the Tomb Spider, the destroyers are really your only options for vehicles in this game. And they are just 3 variations of very fast-moving, gravity-platformed,
wrong with you,
durable light vehicles, in essence. The Light Destroyer, or sorry, to say, the Destroyer, he's the guy with the stunted gun, the short version of the Gauss Flare. And it is, it's alright. It's anti-infantry. It's a single unit shooting though, so it's I would say its usefulness drops off if it ever has any. I'm not a big fan of them as a unit. The Heavy Destroyer, however, is my favorite unit in the game, as anyone who who's played against me in multiplayer can testify.
Let me tell you how much I've come to hate Heavy Destroyers since I began to live.
They're incredibly fast, incredibly long-ranged, incredibly durable, can fight in melee, and their ranged attack isn't just great against vehicles of all stripes, but actually does significant damage against commander-type units, so they can actually be used to assassinate force commanders and the like from range.
They are incredibly good at that.
They
If you click
so
on them,
good.
they only say vehicle and building. I am here to tell you that is that isn't a lie. That isn't a damn lie. That's a Congress level lie.
That is the biggest fib ever told. Also,
oh my lord,
Chaos Lord dying to Scarabs. Om nom 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 nom.
Oh my
He
god,
got
they
sync
actually
kill.
had got a sync
He got
kill.
sync killed too. I didn't see that when I was playing. I apologize,
Oh
everybody.
man, that is embarrassing. That's just LMFAO your life at that point.
So, yeah. So, the thing about Necrons is, yes, they can absolutely harass buildings and things like that, but they can't take it. That's probably a good idea to talk about the listing posts as well. Listing posts for the Necrons don't actually get an anti-anything weapon until they're upgraded twice on the final upgrade. They do on the first upgrade, and keep it on the second upgrade, have basically a giant shot which causes massive disruptive blasting back energy. And so, it's pretty good for disrupting enemy formations and attacks and stalling for time while your dudes teleport in. And then, they're not much interested in, capturing anything. I think primarily just because they need to, they want to take my relic point.
Yeah, the AI in this game does have, the AI is weird because they do have a good concept of, a larger map strategy, but they're dubious at carrying that out. Because right now,
here's the final upgrade you get
Lord.
for the Necron Lord, by the way. Regardless of what war gear you give them, you can simply just turn him into the Nightbringer, which makes him basically completely immortal. We will talk about the Katana and the Nightbringer at some point. Don't worry, everybody. This is all just unit chat right now. You are completely invincible, and every single attack performed by the Nightbringer form restores health. So it's really good for, and Cool Guy again is having flashbacks.
Yeah.
He's really good at getting into the fight for your Necron Lord, taking a ridiculous amount of damage as everyone's like, I have to kill this Necron Lord. And then he transforms into the thing that just basically drains your health, so he's back to full health again. And then while that's going on, he then afterwards goes, haha, Resurrection Orb, LMAO. And then the Wraith actually does get up when killed too, because the Wraith actually got killed, I'm pretty sure, and got back up again. So, you basically fighting the Necrons at late game is monstrous. I'll quickly talk about the Destroyer Lord. The Destroyer Lord is more akin to a caster unit in a lot of games. It's okay at at fighting, but it can cast stasis on an enemy unit, which makes them effectively unable to move. And then while you're doing that, because it's the best way to do it, you can then possess that enemy vehicle. And so you can use it to steal pretty much any non-relic vehicle in the game. And basically, so you want to do basilisk fire on an enemy? Yeah, steal the enemy basilisk, and suddenly you've got long-range artillery that will gib any Imperial Guardsman in seconds. It's fun, but again, I would much just rather build up a million heavy destroyers.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that's super fun when you can pull it off. Good freaking luck pulling it off.
And last but not least, we have built the relic unit for the Necrons, the monolith. The monolith, as it sort of moves around the map, is incredibly slow, which is why I built the forward monolith, so we could get to the end of this mission nice and quickly. There will be a second mission afterwards, where we'll be able to discuss things a little bit more. But the monolith is incredibly powerful. It can still build units while it's flying along, and they will just deploy right in front of it. So you've got a mobile base that just spits out units right in front of it. It still counts as a building for the purposes of Necron Warriors teleporting to it. Immortals will not be able to do that, but they will be able to do that in Soulstorm. So you can teleport the monolith into the middle of the enemy's base because it has a long cooldown, very slow activating teleport, which I'm about to use. And so you can teleport it in up a hill into the middle of the enemy base, and then just teleport all your Necrons directly over to it, or your Necron Warriors, and suddenly you have a fighting base. And then you can just start spitting out incredibly fast built heavy destroyers. and your Necron Lord is running around transforming into the Nightbringer, resurrecting any of those Necron Warriors that fell down to create even more squads of Necron Warriors. See, I just did it there. I just teleported them straight in. That's how it goes. And that's how the Necrons work, ladies and gentlemen. I think I got everything down. Did I miss anything?
Not really. Like the biggest thing that those of you at home might be wondering is, how do you stop a Necron player that has gotten to the end of their development like this? Short answer: you don't.
Nope. Don't let them.
Slightly longer answer is that if you can manage to destroy that monolith, that generally throws a giant monkey wrench into everything that the Necrons are doing. The thing is that precisely because the damn thing teleports, unless you have complete supremacy of the battlefield, good bloody luck doing that. Good bloody luck locking it down enough to actually destroy it. And you want to know what is much harder to get as if you don't have total if you don't kill that monolith. Total supremacy of the battlefield, because the Necron Lord is going around popping the goddamn resurrection orb and everything else that Robokai was just talking about.
So, just to quickly talk about Wargaming before the tutorial continues, every time you complete one of those achievements, you can choose from one of them. Anything in red requires first a lower version to be purchased. Pause if you want to read about what all these things are. They're all really useful. So I'm just going to start with the skinning blades. I think we'll see. And there we go. Now we should get some more tutorial.
Congratulations. You have conquered your first province. This victory has given you several rewards, including a piece of war gear and the bonus from the province. Every province on the map has a special bonus. This bonus is displayed in the right-hand panel when you select the province. Some provinces give you the ability to train a special unit for your commander's honor guard. Once trained, these units accompany your commander into the initial stages of battle. You can train these units, or retrain them if they are destroyed in battle, from the commander screen or the attack screen. Other provinces give you special abilities, like the Era's Badlands, which gives you the ability to attack twice per turn.
Yeah, that belongs to the Imperial Guard right now.
That you've just conquered. Notice that it has changed to your color, and that your army is now here. Whenever you conquer a province, your army moves to that province. You can only move or attack once per turn, so your turn is effectively over. Next turn, new provinces will be available for you to attack. When you are ready to let the enemy factions act, click on the End Turn button.
Right, so we're gonna go over to the, see, we can see here, Fury. Those maps that have a bonus on them are actually special maps. We're gonna do a regular battle, and it'll sort of demonstrate that they are essentially just like that fight we had there, skirmish fights against an enemy. And we have now earned an honor guard, so now we can spend our requisition to build that unit, and that will deploy at the start of the battle alongside our commander.
Allows you to garrison troops in a province. These troops will be ready when you fight to defend this province from enemy attacks. Stationing troops in a province costs you planetary requisition. The available units are on the panel. Later, you can recall these troops if the province is no longer at risk. Recalling a unit will give you back half the planetary requisition you spent to station it in the first place. Be careful. All your purchases will be final once you accept the changes on this screen.
One of the silly things about this particular mechanic is that while your garrisons like that cost planetary requisition, all of the buildings that you place when
Each of the
you
enemy factions
when you're
will now
I
act
should
in
shut up.
turn. Like you, they each have their own strongholds and armies. They will each move their armies, or attack and reinforce their provinces in turn. Pay attention to where your enemy's armies are. Armies will reinforce nearby friendly provinces under attack, bolstering the defense with additional troops.
The buildings that you make there are also words hard. The buildings that you make there are permanent. So one of the things that I did when I first played this game was I played the Space Marines for my first setup.
You'll notice that you have gained planetary requisition from the provinces you control. Each province produces planetary requisition every turn. You use planetary requisition to reinforce your provinces by stationing troops there and to train honor guard units. To reinforce a province, simply left-click on a province you own and then click on the Reinforce button in the right-hand panel.
So I played the Space Marines, so you could do a crapload of stronghold spam to make sure that you were in just an absolutely unbeatable position after you left a place.
Yeah.
And it still ends up looking like, a 5-strength province or whatever, so enemies were really happy to attack it. And then they would just get absolutely dumpstered every single time.
Yeah, so in this particular case, it looks like the story of a bunch of explorers, and they've ended up sort of getting themselves stuck in a place in the Right Swamplands, which might be a little bit
Chaos corrupted.
Don't worry about it.
Kronus is not a happy planet. It's a tomb world. It's infested by a long ago Chaos War. It was an Imperial world for a time, and then the Tau overthrew it and established their own order there. And of course, it's got orcs there as well. So the Eldar turn up and are like, "What the fuck?"
It's a little bit like Gladius. Just this is the worst planet.
Oh, and there are
Nobody,
old Blood Raven
nobody
relics here as well. I forgot that part. So hey,
nobody should come here ever.
Yeah, don't come to Kronus. So now we're going to attack this region over here. And most of my playthroughs when I've played this game, usually Eliphas takes that region and I fight Eliphas directly. But not today, we're fighting the Imperial Guard.
Sure, why not?
So, every single map is a skirmish multiplayer map in this game. And the most important thing to note about this game tends to sort of circle around on the factor of that strength number. Strength at 1 meant that we were playing against an enemy that was basically on the easiest level of, or at least on like the most basic level of skirmish AI. And the higher that number gets, the more advantages they get in terms of like what buildings they start with, what units they start with, and their general AI strength. And it gets up to the point where you start seeing the ones that are around like 10, 11 and up, and they will typically have 2 AIs to fight against. So you will have actually 2 enemy forces of the same faction to fight against, which is extremely difficult. So I actually will be doing most of these fights the same way every single time, which isn't too bad because there are the stronghold missions and there are the unique land bonuses missions to spice things up, but I am basically going to march down their freaking throat and strangle them as quickly as I can. And the more Honor Guard units that I get, the faster I'm going to be doing this. And that's where the Honor Guard units really come into their own, is because you get that early force projection so that you can just make... Because, like, these guys have got commissars already. This fight's been on for, like, a minute, and they've got commissars already. Like, like, we gotta kill these son of a bitches, and we gotta kill them quick. Because they ain't good. Look, they've already got turrets up. These are things they get to start with, and this is only strength 3. This is strength 3, and they're already got a pretty good establishment against anyone but Necrons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like I remember the third skirmish map I did. It was against a rank 7 AI, and I was playing Space Marines, and the entirety of what I had was just basically a unit of Assault Marines as my honor guard, and I basically had to like I was up against two different AIs, and I had to jump straight down the first one's throat and basically just force commander and spam melta-bombs on their HQ. And I could assassinate that AI doing it, because if you pay very close attention, the objective here is destroy HQ.
Yes.
The objective here is not annihilate.
Yes, you've got to destroy the enemy HQ to win.
Right. So if you have some particular way to jump in and basically ace the enemy
Priests!
HQ,
They have priests now. These guys have actually teched up. Like, oh, actually, that's Lucas Alexander's, or rather the Imperial General's honor guard. I forgot. They
retinue, yeah.
I forget they can get those relatively early, but at the same time, it's still like, you know, they're still priests.
Yeah, no, these guys, like the AIs in the campaign do not screw around. Like everybody might have like may or may not have noticed. I didn't give Robokai the requisite amount of garbage that I usually give him for choosing to play on normal instead of hard. I would too.
Yeah,
playing on hard in this game is like nailing your most sensitive bits, like be it your balls or your clit, straight to your chair.
And I mean, there's a lot of people who played against me multiplayer when we did a little multiplayer thing who would probably like to see that happen to me and my Necrons, but we do got to get through this Let's Play.
Yeah,
I don't even consider myself like a really good player of like Necrons, but it's pretty obvious from like those games I fought, in that I'm definitely the person, if I get Necrons, you definitely focus me out of the game immediately. Like everybody just basically joins together for a moment of momentary world peace. Because I don't just play the game with the Necrons really tight. I'm also like mind hacking everybody around them. I managed to keep an entire the first time we played as Necrons, everyone agreed to just stop the game because I clearly won. The next time I got them from a random selection, everybody was going to start trying to team up on me, and I basically just started doing old man RP screaming for everyone to get off my lawn, and that was enough to get everybody to stay off my lawn.
It was amusing enough that even I fell for it. There are certain times that I know, I'm a little bit like the DBZ, like the Dragon Ball Z abridged thing. I know you're playing me, but you're right.
I was literally screaming, "Get off my lawn!"
It was so funny. I couldn't negatively reward that. I had to go along with it.
Yeah. So Honor Guard, it probably also should be noticed, are basically smaller than most other units, but statistically better. So it's kind of interesting for the Space Marines because their Honor Guard units are usually just singular infantry, like a single really buffed up battle brother. Basically, but the Necrons get whole squads, so they don't die. They don't die to sustained fire quite so much, but they can still die, and they're very easily signified by having these aura little things around them, which I guess signifies them being stronger.
The other thing to note about them is that if there are any major upgrades that are supposed to go along with that unit, they spawn with them. So for the Assault Marine. honor guard for the Space Marines, they spawn with melta-bombs.
Yeah, and like you said, you use that assault marine to basically like just take out the enemy base. Like that's really useful.
I would 100% use that to assassinate the enemy base, and then you would literally just see this AI that was ready to get rolling. They already had a couple of a dozen units. They're running around and like looking really threatening, and they all just go away with that like long suffering sigh that you get out of this game when somebody's defeated.
Yeah. So yeah, like this compared to the other battle where I was just like trying to show off the different units and everything and give myself breathing room to explain stuff and still like run out of breath. I'm going to be doing the rest of these like standard skirmish missions as fast as I can, which is still like a very slow, deliberate, murderous pace. But you know what? You get what you paid for, and people voted for the Necrons, and I don't mind.
You voted for Necrons. You deserve this.
This is it. This is the Necrons. This is what I will be doing on every single skirmish map. And that's it. You destroy the HQ, you win the game, and now we can build ourselves a pariah, an honor guard pariah squad. So we're at the end of the episode now. I'm going to hit end turn, I think, in a moment, and we'll see what goes on there. Next time, we take on the Chaos Stronghold. That's right! The second episode is I'm immediately going to be taking an entire enemy faction out of the game.
Like you said, man, this is basically like a Total War game, and what is one of the primary things that every Total War game has revolved around since the originals? Don't let your enemy play the game. If you can kill him, do it.
And Elephas makes the gravest of tactical errors. So yes, we'll see you all next time. I've been the Last Robo-Kai.
And I have been Cool Guy.
Blood for the Blood God? Perhaps.
Skulls for the Skull Throne.
But we'll see how Elephas handles an army of very angry robot skeletons on his doorstep.
Spoilers. Poorly.